Hi, everyone. Welcome to the third episode of The Untethered Mind. In this segment, we talk to ex-Muslims, we talk to therapists, I talk to people. I talk to social workers or activists and basically just get an understanding of religious trauma from an ex-Muslim perspective, but also bring to light a lot of the ex-Muslim stories as well. Kind of humanize the experience of where they were before and where they're at, and basically just really keep the conversation open. Today with us, we have Yasmine from Egypt, who is now based in Sweden, and I'm based in Sweden, but we're in different cities. Yasmine, tell us a bit more about yourself. So you were born and raised in Egypt.
Yeah, first, thanks for hosting me. I'm born in Egypt, in Cairo, big city with 20 million people. And I moved to Sweden 4 years ago, and I am a musician and women rights activist, I would say.
So I got in touch with you because we're going to the Celebrating Dissent conference together. And that was the first time I heard of you. So do a lot of people in Egypt know of your music? Do they know your name?
Most probably no. People in Egypt knows me more for women rights activism. That was the spark because I was a beginning of a revolution, because I came out as talking for stuff that people do not talk about. So it was like a social shock. So that was very big back then. And then they know the musician, but I guess the women rights activist comes first.
What were some of the things that you were talking about that a lot of people did not talk about in Egypt? What were one of the main, or like one of the arguments?
Yeah, okay. It's the shame. It's the stigma, shaming victims of sexual violence. And that was my, it's not a problematic thing for me. It's very obvious that there's no shame on sexual violence victims, or victims of sexual violence. And by the way, I don't have any problem with the word victim. Like when you get stolen, you are a victim of a crime. Like someone stole stuff, but I have a problem with the victim mentality, that people use it to live, like you don't have this victim way of thinking. But when you become a victim of anything, it's only during when it happened, when it was happening, and that's it. And that's not a problem. This is true. Like I'm okay with truth. Like I'm a realistic person. So anyway, I wanted to say this shame should be on the people who do that crime, not the people who get subjected to that crime. And surprisingly, nobody was able to say so, even if it's very logic. But people are afraid to announce it. And I did, and suddenly they said that I was right, that I'm brave, that I'm strong, and like, what? So I was expecting that you will reject me because I defied your social terms. But they were just waiting, like they just needed someone to take the first step, and then everybody was speaking up about that. So yeah, that's it.
So when you talked about it, like when you talked about the victim blaming, I assume it was very common in Egypt. To date, probably is, because I've worked with a lot of Egyptian with the charity. And a lot of times it's so normalized that the women need to feel guilty, specifically women. You know, a man could be a victim, but they were like, oh, poor guy.
Yeah, of course.
And the women are just held to this different standard. Yeah. But also, it's also other women that continue to berate the survivor or the person who was wronged by.
Yeah. Victim blaming is happening, and it happened to me as well. But I'm talking about the side of shame, that you should not be known, like nobody should know that this happened to you. And when I announced that this happened to me, they told me I'm brave, not that I am something to be ashamed of. That's the point. But all the other problems exist still, like victim blaming, like why did you go there, what you were wearing, like a lot of work is needed to go through that, like to fix this upside down idea, mentalities or way of thinking. So what was your question?
I was just talking about like what were like some of the things that you were talking about that a lot of people wouldn't dare to talk about. And
Yeah,
then, the overwhelming response was actually quite positive, calling you brave and
yeah,
giving other people the perspective of like, stop shaming the victim, like not
yeah.
just victim blaming, like don't hold them to that shameful standard.
Hmm.
What was that? What were some of the negative things what were some of the negative responses
Yeah,
you
yeah.
received in your advocacy?
Yeah, actually, there was a very obvious side of negative responses from the regime, from the government, and from social life. I would say because it's in our context, that time it was Muslim Brotherhood government. It was during the Morsi, the ex-president, rule, the year that he was the president. And when I announced that, they tried to handle it, but then they couldn't, so they decided to go against women who were attacked, because there's many women who were attacked, and they decide, and like in the council, in the Egyptian council, they like officially announced that women are mistaken for their gang rapes. Like it's their own responsibility, and it's official from the government, not people talk. And on the media, because there is also many clerics talking about Islam on TV, they were saying that women who were raped in the protest against Morsi was Christians and widows and divorced women, and they went there because they want to have sex and they can't fight. Like they were saying all that shit from the society backlashes, I would say, but not as much as I expected. As I told you, they said like I have dignity. Like I reminded them it was the dignity issue. I don't know why is it forgotten. Some people say like nobody will marry you, or I got engaged and a woman asked my fiance, "Well, how did you do that? Like how dare you propose to her?" Stuff like that, like small details like that.
So there's this way that a lot of and I'm not going to say it's just men, but there's this way that the society really brings you down, even in your personal life, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's
Yeah.
also this idea that feminists are difficult women, or
Yeah.
feminists are people nobody would marry because, essentially, you want a man that protects you and takes care of you, etc. So when
Yeah.
you're vocal about women's rights, they tend to try putting in your personal life to bring you down. Like,
Yeah, they want an obedient woman, and they expect that this woman is a troublemaker. They're like asking for her rights.
and they'll also go to the lens to kind of really attack your family, your partner in this case. And like really
Yeah,
like my partner as well have, they've gotten messages as well in terms of like, oh, why are you with a racist Islamophobe? And
yeah.
it's crazy how they make it their own business. It's
Though,
so it's so interesting because I feel like women, like ex-Muslim women, like even in secular countries, are really brought down.
yeah,
And there's religious men bringing us down, but then there's also like in the secular sphere as well, we're still having to
mm-hmm.
fight a lot of the conservative ideas that come about in the secular world.
Mm-hmm.
And this is, I don't know what your experience is, but
I
this is
think,
also something that a lot of the Arabs hold against you. They're like, oh, in the West, this happens. And I'm like, yeah, well, at
yeah,
least nobody's going to kill me for that.
yeah, yeah. From my own experience, I noticed that this kind of problems are international, like all over the globe, whether it's a secular country or a theocratic country or whatever. But it's all about the percentage, the ratios. It's more in that country and less in that country, but it's not zero in any country. Like victim blaming exists everywhere. Sexual harassment exists everywhere, but it's more in some places and less in some places, and different in the way it happens. The predator use the society against the victim, and sometimes they use her own family against her. Like they threaten her with her own family that they will make her family kill her if she tried to resist or to try to ask for her rights, or take advantage of her fear and harass her or assault her, taking advantage of knowing that she won't talk, like she will be silent about that and they will get through, like no punishment will happen. So they are using that as a weapon against you. Like actually a family should be a protection, not a weapon against me. But this is how it is.
No, I completely agree. I was born and raised in Tanzania, and I left when I just turned 16, and it's the very same culture that a lot of people feel like Tanzania is a secular country. And I'm like, guys, you don't know what corruption is like. I've lived through racism, misogyny my entire life. That even when I had a therapist from Tanzania who was like, she would also have this idea, oh, peaceful. And I'm like, really? Like you're a black woman and you're telling me that there is no racism. Are you sure? Because I have, like, you know, my community is very, like, you know, they will shame my family. They will ostracize my family. They will really, like, they know what hits you. And they will try to bring you down.
Yeah.
I have a question, actually.
Actually,
Sorry, go on.
I forgot, put it down, like write it down, but I remember that you asked me about this woman who blames you as though she is a woman because she's afraid, like she doesn't want to acknowledge it. So like she asked you what you were wearing or why did you go there? Like subconsciously she's saying that if I don't wear that or if I don't go there, nothing will happen to me. So she's trying to find any safety, any safe zone. And this, to have this safe place, she must blame you and avoid what you did in order to be comfortable and not like to get rid of her worries because she doesn't want this to happen to her. That was
It's
the
almost
question
like
you
a
asked
safe.
me.
Yeah, so that's almost like a safe. It's almost like being a secondary victim of the shame culture as well, right? Because the reality is that it's so hard to blame men, even if it's her own son or her own husband. Like the reality can literally shatter people. But my question, oh my God, now I can't remember. All good. But my question was on when you were, I guess you've moved to Sweden and it's only been like 4 years, but your journey started a long time before that.
Yeah.
So apart from the women's rights activists, you're also into music, obviously with the gear behind you. Yeah. How was the music scene and why do you think, sorry, my dog is like barking on this one. But what did you think the reactions were to you as a woman starting music? Because I feel like there's a lot of empowerment in doing things that a lot of women wouldn't dare to go on the stage, even something as good as music.
Yeah. Okay, for women in music, they should be singers or they can play violin or piano. You know, like there's some like job titles available, but the other stuff is for men. Like sound engineer, like my instrument, I play oud. Like if you are a composer or if you're a arranger or whatever, you should be a man. Women should be singing, like using her beauty, using her sound, her voice, whatever. Like but not as something in the industry. Like this is more for men because men are more smart, of course. So
or they should be the ones who are engineering all of this because women obviously can't.
Yeah, women are stupid and they have very bad memory. They they cannot even testify in court because they forget things. You know that, right?
Yeah,
a woman
exactly.
equal a man equal 2 women in court in Islamic
court. Of course.
Court.
I actually had a conversation with my dad when I was last in Tanzania. And I was like, look, like I've been alone since I was 16. Like, I have a master's, I'm in a tech job, etc. The Quran says that, men are men's testimony counts more as compared to women, and then it's tied to their intellect as well. Do you believe that? Because if we had to measure intellect, I have a master's, my brother does not. And, my dad was like, well, I don't believe in everything the Quran says. And to me, that was obviously it's an up and down thing with my family. They have their own Islam as well. But to me, it was just okay, so when you ask a rational question, when you put it very personally and you ask a rational question, are people able to agree that maybe this is not okay? And I feel like a lot of a lot of the Muslims, even in the Western world, despite having, I don't know your experience, but for me, I felt like growing up in Tanzania was such a disadvantage. I didn't have the books, the libraries that were available, the malls, the experience outside my bubble. It was until I was 16 that I got that, right? Like I got that accessibility. And I feel like people in the West, or women in the West, had all of this. Like you had like a library, you had good internet connection, you had electricity. I didn't have it for weeks. You know,
Yeah.
my suffering was like, oh, you know, I don't have hot water or something. And you guys had all of that at your like availability, like in general. Like you didn't have to go through all of that. And then I still see that there's so much, they're so regressive as well, not just Muslims, like in general, like even the Western world. And I come out and I'm like, oh my God, like even in Sweden, like, you know, when the Quran burnings were happening and they were like, oh, but you shouldn't burn the Quran. And I'm like, look, I'm not 100% for burning the Quran, but you do not know what oppression is if you think that this person burning the Quran is like the danger, right? It's that it was a victim blaming. Not that I support this guy, and it's not because I don't support the act of blasphemy, but it was just like they take, you know, a lot of the Western world takes that privilege for granted. And what was it like for you, like that change from like Egypt to Sweden, and then I don't know. I want to hear more about your experience.
Yeah, okay. I would rather start it in brief, how I was introduced to Islam. I come from a very conservative family, and my mother is very Muslim, like as the book says, like real one, not the fake ones. And for me,
not the Shias.
Yeah, and not also the apologetics. Because the people who say that Islam is good or Islam is not like when they cancel this part, like the no men are women are equal, these people are not Muslims. And they insist to call themselves Muslim. And this creates the dilemma of knowing the reality. Like they are making it vogue because people sometimes really believe that ISIS is not the real Islam. But there, get me one difference between ISIS and the Prophet and his friends. There's zero difference. Like actually, let's not go there because I would talk forever. But anyway, back to my life. My mother is not unapologetic and is not Shia and stuff like that. But on a personal level, I wasn't convinced. Like since I was a child, I wasn't convinced. Not with Islam. I didn't know about books and reading things and comparing and critical thinking. It was I wasn't convinced of worship in the first place. To worship a creature or an entity. Why would I worship in the first place? What is worship? What is God? You know, like what is a God? Like if you want to say it's a creator of the universe, why would okay, there's an entity created the universe. So what? Like why he want me to cover my hair? What does it have to do with that? Why he want me to bow in front of him? Why? Like why he want to be the master and want me to be a slave? Like I was never able to see the connection between them. So I would say that I wasn't really ever as a Muslim or a religious person. I'm from the Islamic culture, and I was forced to go through that Islamic culture. Like I was forced to follow their rules. On all levels, and then I would run through like until I went to until we reached the revolution in 2011. I didn't really think about Islam. This for me is a myth, like Aladdin, like Jasmine, like the Beauty and the Beast. Like it's a story. For me, it's a story, and I see the effect on the society, but I didn't see the danger of it. Like on that year, I wasn't very aware of the real danger of it. And then I joined the revolution as a political activist or a citizen against oppression. I wanted to have a better country, better life. Going through that, I realized that human rights is not the right umbrella to talk about better country, because women are not included in human rights. Because when I got this attack, I wasn't included. You know, yeah, like even from the revolution side, like Like this is something that is not a priority. Like, you know, like LGBTQ rights, women rights, the freedom of belief, like, oh, that wasn't a priority. So I
It's very
realized,
selective.
yeah, and at the end of the day, it's like men rights. You know, like it's the police should treat the citizen, the female, the man citizen in a good way, like human, not human. It wasn't human. So I knew why there is women rights, like because there shouldn't be women rights because she's a human. But because she's not included, humanity, like the civilization, created the expression women rights because it was needed, because women have problems on her own. Anyway, developing more, if my evolution through that, I reached the point that women's rights is not the umbrella that I should address, it's the religion. And it's not any religion, it is Islam. Because whenever I try to go through any discussion with any person in any place, I always hit a wall. And this wall is Islam. Like, you are not allowed to do that. Why? Because God said so. So God said so, like this is God's order, is a killer. You cannot discuss that. If you have problems in any country, in any ideology, secular or whatever it was, you can still discuss it. But when it's sacred, this is a wall. And this is where blood is inevitable. Because, like, if I'm here in Sweden, I can say anything against the government, but I'm not going to die. I want to criticize capitalism, communism, no problem. I would say anything. I would talk about right-wing policies or left-wing, no problem. If I talk about Christianity, by the way, no problem. If I make cartoon about Jesus, no problem. But if I talk about Islam, even if it's not really offensive, it's a problem and it's undiscussable.
You know, I wrote an article in Swedish. I had some help translating, and I wrote about the Quran burning. But mostly about blasphemy and how Swedes take their freedom for granted. Yeah. And actually, surprisingly, one of the threats that I got was from a old Swede Christian man. One of the death threats that I got was via email by an old Swede Christian man. Yeah. And it reminded me of, like, yes, Islam is a big problem, but then now there are these alliances being formed with Islam and, like, the conservative conservative politicians' ideas, but also conservative Christians as well. Like, it's trending. It's now a trend. People like Andrew
These people are not defending Islam. This guy is not defending Islam. This guy is defending the concept of religion.
Yeah, exactly.
He wanted the word religion, whatever was the religion, to stay in a sacred place, in full respect, with full respect, whatever it was.
It's
so and he related.
And this is what is, like, it really baffles me. Like, you know, there has been this alliance and there has been this growing acceptance of conservative ideas coming from Islam. So Islamism or Islamist, conservative ideas coming from Islam. And then the left side as well is like, oh, Muslims are a minority, so we must respect what they believe in. And we can't oppose it. And, you know, and then they'll silence, like, you know, so I feel like Sweden is pretty liberal and left-leaning. And then you talk about Islam and you're like, you're a fascist if you talk about it. And I'm like, I'm sorry, are you, as a white person, as a white male, are you going to tell me about the religion I was raised in? Or, like, are you going to give me are you going to give me the space to talk about it as well?
There's a lot to say in that context because Swedish people are not really aware of the problem. And I want to say that the left and right wing should be aware that they do not have the privilege of disagreeing together. Because if before Islam invasion for Europe, there was problems about racism, and that the left wing is humanitarian and these people are rights are fascist or whatsoever. All this story is not the story that is happening now. Maybe it was 20 years ago. Okay, good for you. But now when you address a real problem, this is not racism, this is not fascism. And both sides should be open to talk about the citizens' rights, the human rights. Like, if you say, I want to respect a minority, of course you have to respect a minority as people, as person, but you do not respect racism. You do not respect misogyny, and both are included in Islam. So if you respect that the Muslim minorities are racists, that makes you racist, because Islam says that everybody else is less than Muslims, and black people are not like white people. Men are not like in equal, not equal value. You know, in all levels, like from the moment of birth until she's in her grave, she's not equal a man. There is, the when they get an animal when you have a baby. For a
Akika.
girl, it's a small animal. For a boy, it's a big animal or two animals. And for a
Yes.
ransom, if someone kills by mistake, if someone make a car accident, if the victim was a female, the ransom, the money paid for the family is half the money paid if it was a male victim. Until you die, she's not an equal a man. So you don't include the religion and respect it side by side with the expressions like racism or like respecting race, respecting gender. You don't respect religion and gender. Together doesn't go, like it doesn't work, because religion is against gender. So how would you put both in protection by law or by constitution? No, religion is against everything else. All the words beside it, it's not included in the religion, any religion, by the way. So they are not aware that, like this guy, the Christian man, and the woman who told you that she knows Islam more than you, they consider Islam is like Christianity. They say that there is also bad things in all other books. So they treat it like that, like they like Islam, like as if
Except
Islam now is like Christianity now. And this is not true.
this is exactly, it's not true. It's, 200 years ago was a different story. Like apostasy
Exactly.
laws and Christianity
Exactly.
existed.
Islam now is like Christianity 200 years ago.
Yeah.
So if people are thinking that Islam is like Christianity now, they need to reconsider that. Like,
I
look
think it's
around you.
also,
Like, there is countries who are destroyed. Like, there's many countries who are fucked up because of it. So, doesn't it like remind you of Dark Ages? Doesn't it remind you of that, or what?
Poland is actually a good example of what happens when you keep holding on to conservative Christian ideas.
Yeah.
Because that's one of the European countries where they have like Christian blasphemy laws as well. Very hidden, not as much as widely spread with like Muslim or like Islam, sorry. But Poland is actually a good example of like looking at like, LGBT rights in Europe. And I'm like, oh, where's Poland? I'm not there. There's streets where there are no gay streets.
Okay.
And
I
like,
didn't know that.
there are areas where gay people cannot go. I mean, nobody would know if you don't tell, but there are people who live in fear as well. But I think like when people do compare Christianity and Islam, they're comparing it to what it is now. And I'm like, hang on, like I'm anti-religion, yes, but also I need you to recognize that we have these differences where, it is a privilege. I even have to say this to other, ex-Christians as well. And I'm like, it is an absolute privilege that, you can just go on waking up every day, travel wherever you want, and not think about where, if I stop over maybe in the Gulf area, that maybe there will be a threat to my life, or that if I walk out and somebody recognizes me, they might, not, kill me like that. It's a threat. I'm sorry, it's a privilege. It's a privilege for you to not feel like that. And if you can't recognize those differences, then you're not an ally. You're kind of whitewashing our trauma and experience, because, people like you had to flee to get your freedom. You had to find this opportunity.
I have a question. If you could help me, like, tell me if you have an answer. When you talk with a Swedish person and tell him that, or tell her that this religion is a very bad ideology, dangerous ideology, and they choose not to believe you. And another person comes and tell the person you were speaking with, like someone else, not you, comes and tell this exact same person that Islam is. So this Swedish person do not know Islam.
Yeah. They'll believe the other person, yeah.
Why do they believe the other person and not you?
So I think what like my
Like you
first
are
2 years.
ignorant in all cases. You are ignorant, and you got two opinions, or and contradicting opinions. So you cannot decide. You don't have the material. You don't have the knowledge to decide which person is lying to you. So how on earth do you decide that she is lying or he is lying? How would you do that? At least do some research. Read some. Open a book.
Yeah, I think in Sweden it's becoming more aware now. Like I will have people who, even ex-Muslims, they're like, yeah, but you're never going to be a Swede. And I'm like, excuse me, I probably pay higher taxes than you do. So if you really want to talk about who's becoming a Swede, then we can do that comparison. So you'll have like a group of bigots who absolutely hate all Muslims, and they will categorize you as an ex-Muslim in the same group. And then you will have the other group that will that will call you an Islamophobe and that will call you an aggressor, even if you have the lived experience, like, your lineage has like experienced oppression.
Yeah.
You've come from a country. It's not like I was born in Sweden or I was born in the West. Even if I was born in a secular country, I had Sharia law embedded in that community that I didn't even know you could not wear a hijab. So I think in Sweden specifically, like it's a growing, like, I'm not going to use this term Islamophobia, but like anti-Muslim bigotry is growing. Like 5 years ago, we were the only ones talking about it. But now you have a lot of people talking about it.
That's true.
And sometimes quite horribly to they actually really bring down Muslims, which I don't support because I see them like, really being mean to other people.
Yeah.
But like with the general population in Sweden, personally, what I found was I'm a brown woman who has coming from a Muslim background. There's no way you're silencing me. Like I will fight. Like I have this. I have a lot of Swedes who will tell me, but how do I have this conversation about humanism to a Muslim person? And I'm like, you know what? For Christians, humanism is like the next step. In Sweden, like all of you were not raised religious, so you've never had the trauma of leaving religion. But then for Muslims, they don't know what humanism is. It's atheist. The fact that you were an atheist is such a nasty word that ex-Muslims we're not go like, oh, but we're humanists. Like, I mean, I am, but we're still fighting the acceptance of like just leaving religion, let alone any other label. And I feel like a lot of Christians struggle with that. They're like, oh, but like, don't use the word atheist. And I'm like, no, I am going to use the word atheist because it means very different things in our like language, our countries. In Tanzania, there is no word for atheist.
Yeah.
There's literally no word. We've had to make it up. But I know, but I want to kind of like put this back on you because you never really used the ex-Muslim title and you're slowly embracing that. And what changed, and then what have the reactions been to that?
Yeah. I was always talking about Islam and the problems happening out of it on a personal level, but not in the sense of an activist or an ex-Muslim, like not with the title ex-Muslim. But now I see how important it is. We do not, like as ex-Muslims, we don't belong anywhere. The Swedish government doesn't know who we are, and our communities doesn't know who we are still in another way. And the immigrants think that we are think that we are crazy because we are immigrants against immigration. Like they laugh about it, like make a joke, like how come you are an Arab, how come you are brown or like whatever, but you are immigrant and you are against immigrants. But it's like nobody likes you. Nobody understands you. Nobody considers you, like knows, like aware of your existence or your ideas, your thoughts, your opinions, how you see things. This is very important. So I don't know who rang the doorbell.
Do you want to go get it?
And I can drop it, but I'm not afraid it rings again. So okay. I will continue and see how. Okay, I want to say that again without the doorbell. An
immigrant who is not fully supportive of immigration or immigrants.
Yeah, I've been asked when I speak, like when I write on social media, when I discuss with people in comments, like how on Twitter, they say, how come you are an immigrant and you are against immigrants? And it's the same like if the left wing talk about the minorities, they are racists. Like there is judgments. If you say whatever you notice, then you are against this person, you are a racist, you are whatever. But no, I'm not racist. I'm not against immigrants. I'm not against any color, any gender, any race, anything. But I have thoughts. I have critical thinking. We have freedom of expression. I should speak. I should say whatever I think. And if any person takes it on a personal level, this is their problem, not my problem. Because I don't know you at all as a person to address you or to offend you or to insult you. Like, I'm just talking about the general concept, not someone's concept. So back to the ex-Muslim people in Sweden and why they should announce their existence, because we are considered Muslims in a way, and we are like from white people, and we are considered like, I don't know, bigots or like like traitors, you know, like people who have like betrayals, like we betrayed our communities, and the very open-minded Muslim would embrace to have an ex-Muslim friend, but it's a stigma. And I'm not sure if it's like I don't really have many Arab friends or Muslim friends in Sweden, but I know that in some societies in Sweden, I'm not accepted. And when I don't announce my ideas and meet the Muslim people, they blame me for having Swedish friends because they consider me one of them as Muslim. Like this is the not the country, not the color, not it's we are Muslims, then we are one. So how come you have Swedish friends? Like,
Why are you
yeah,
talking to them? Or
yeah, like,
you're just like a coconut. I don't know. Have you heard that term? Like brown
yeah,
on the
yeah,
outside, white
yeah,
on the inside.
yeah,
You're
and
a coconut.
you are attacking, and sometimes people say that I'm attacking Islam, so white people likes me because I
And you
want
know,
the
it's
white
so,
people to like me.
which is so stupid. It takes away your own voice. Like, I mean, I feel like immigration integration should be up for discussion. We should all be talking about it. I am pro migration, but
Yeah,
I'm also very much pro integration. I'm pro actually having people from Muslim backgrounds take on a lot of the social work that,
yeah,
you know, they complain about, you know, when they complain about
yeah,
their kids been taken away. And I'm like, then you should be applying for those jobs. You should
yeah,
be applying and educating, not criticizing. You should be having a solution oriented outcome. If you feel like people don't understand your culture, then
mm,
educate them, and then also be
exactly.
open to criticism, because you know,
Yeah,
you want to be hidden, you want to be in your bubble, you're in the West, but you
yeah,
refuse to integrate, you
yeah,
refuse to actually be challenged. And that's exactly like how I feel in Sweden racism is so subtle. It's like
mm.
people, like white people will never really come at you and tell you racist comments like they do in the UK or in America,
In
but it's
America is
very
more.
subtle. It's very subtle. They'll look at you and they'll just assume you're not like them.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Um,
And I sense that they have fear. They don't
mm,
want to say what they think because they're afraid.
yeah.
But people in USA, for example, they are very racist openly, no problem. Um, I would
I
say that,
almost
yeah,
I almost just have to say that, oh yeah, I mean, like I used to be religious and I'm an atheist now. And then people just go,
yeah,
and it's fine. Like I get it. I get it.
yeah,
I completely get it. But then, you know, the argument is that a lot of Muslims who call us traitors don't understand that we're not anti-Muslim bigots. Like we want to call out the bad behavior within the Muslim community. But if we vote for, like, let's say the Swedish Democrats, we're also
mm,
targets. We're
hmm,
also targets because right now they're only talking about illegal immigrants. Tomorrow
yeah,
they will talk about female immigrants. They will talk
yeah,
about, you know, a woman. It's like the precedence that comes after when you vote for conservative ideas,
yeah,
right? Because
yeah.
we're clustered as one.
Yeah, and I don't want to be clustered. Like I don't want, and that's why I'm embracing that, and I want to announce my identity. I would actually rather choose that no identities, no
Mm.
labeling happen to humans, but it's a requirement to have your space, to have your right, because you don't have it unless you announce your identity. I wouldn't choose to announce my identity by choice. But if it's a must that to have my space, then I would. Like the default that humans are all equal and important in the same level, same value. But this is not what's happening on Earth. So that's why.
And I also feel like my experience, like I've never been a refugee, but like when I've worked with refugees around Europe, like ex-Muslims, they've had to hide in Ramadan. They had to fast so that because they're grouped as one. So they're like, oh my God, if we don't eat, they've grouped us as one. Or your caseworker is a Muslim and she can't, and because she's so scared about her asylum, she can't tell the center that I do not want a Muslim caseworker. And I think that is okay to accept because...
they don't want to fast in front of other Muslims or in front of the camp people, like the Swedish people?
No, not Sweden in particular, but like other European countries. Like as long as you have like an Arab name, you're all one, right? So your caseworker who's processing your asylum will also be a Muslim woman. And now that you've left Islam, how do you tell this person that I've left Islam? And you're so scared and you're in a vulnerable position that, I've gone like, no, these are things that, that is a valid criticism for the EU, like immigration that they need to take on board instead of going like, no immigration. I think I think there needs to be like this acceptance of like maybe that the way you've been doing things needs to change.
Yeah, I guess that I believe, and what I noticed is that the problem with integration in Europe is that there's people who have the flexibility to talk with both sides, and those people are not considered. Like the governments are only thinking about how to make immigrants and Europeans integrated together. But you have, like, they should look for people in between, like from the European side who traveled to our countries, who knows our language, who knows our culture, and from our countries who came to Europe before and who knows the language, and these people are in between and they can connect both sides, but they are only clashing two extremes and not looking for the people who can mediate between those two extremes. And this is the problem even with right-left politics, because you need something in between to connect that. And if you don't get it, you'll be
you're polarized as well,
overnumbered very soon.
Yeah, exactly. You'll be polarized because you don't have any efforts to have nuanced discussions. You don't have any efforts to actually start having those fridges because people want to but it's also...
They don't understand, like, if these two extremes talk, if it happens that they talk, they act as if they talked. They don't understand each other. And they go back and nothing improves. If it happens.
And I think, like, from I don't know what you said, but like from my perspective, like in Sweden, people are very proud of the Swedish culture, that they refuse any change. But the thing is that change is inevitable. It doesn't have to be a big change. It has to be a little change to go like, maybe we should, say hi to our neighbors, or maybe we should be more open to actually communicating with the other side, even if we feel like our values don't align. But how do you expect, if a refugee family comes in, they've never been outside their countries, they've just fled war, how do you expect them to understand what you're looking for if you're not actually talking to them? If you quite instinctively go like, no. But then it's also the other side as well, where, there are a lot of migrants who don't want to talk about these, like they don't want to, the West is there to dominate. We want our rights, but we're going to keep our religion as well. So there's like both sides being really stubborn. And then there are people like you and myself who are getting silenced because we're bringing this middle ground as well.
Yeah. Each side want to stay in their comfort zone.
Exactly.
So, when you have people from different backgrounds, you expect diversity. I believe nobody should change. Like, if you don't want to say hi, don't say hi. I believe that you should accept the additions, not replacements. It will be diverse, like be multicultural. And we don't judge each other. Every every person choose the way they want to live without imposing it on the other person. And by the way, I noticed that people because I travel a lot, they say hi in any city that is not big. But in Stockholm, they don't. In Berlin, they don't. But in Musbach, I went to the countryside in the south of Germany, they say hi, hello. So it's more about being
Big
big
city
city or
vibes.
a small city. As long as you don't hurt anyone, as long as you don't judge people, you don't want to impose your ideas on them, then it's okay. And when you have like the American dream, why is America very successful, whatever, it's because there's people from all over the place, from all over the planet. So you have, if you're doing a cinema film or like doing act or a company or anything, so you are choosing the best people in any country, not choosing from one criteria, from one group of people. So this is rich, like even if you have more genetic differences, a bigger genetic pool, that's rich, that you can be more, have higher IQ, you have more flexibility. So you should embrace diversity and not to fight the change, and nobody should change anyone at the same time,
I don't think, for me, I think change is inevitable in the sense that, Sweden 20 years ago was not a secular country, right? Like it was very new. Like secularism is like 20 something years old. It was kind of a Christian country. When I say kind of, I mean like it was still very open-minded, but I mean change in the way that we need to accept that we will have differences. And
that's what I'm talking about. To accept the differences, to accept the variation, like the different kind of thinking in the society. But I'm saying nobody should change themselves. Just the change is that there is more different ideas, and you accept this existence. Like there's other people who have other ideas or other thoughts. This is the change that should happen, but don't change someone. That's what I'm saying.
Oh, okay. I don't impose your changes on others. But I was gonna ask. I mean, I feel like as ex-Muslims, we've changed as well. I mean, it was from our own, our own growing as well, and then having the support of other ex-Muslims or other people, or just this innate for women, this innate need to be fighting for our rights.
Yeah.
And, I feel like, going back to that conversation about, being in your comfort zone, I feel like there are a lot of people who don't renounce or don't tell people that they're ex-Muslims or that they're questioning. And there are a lot of feminists there are a lot of Muslims who claim to be feminists, or actually Muslims who are feminists. I don't believe Islam is feminist. I feel like there is a space, and there has to be a space for other Muslims to dissent. Because sometimes I don't think everybody will leave Islam, but they are going to make their own version of it, like I did. Or I don't know, maybe not for you, but like, I had to like make this own version of myself to be here. Like, I had to like, and it could be like not theologically correct, but it was just like I had to keep that for me to slowly start unlearning. And I feel like there are a lot of Muslims who, feminist Muslims who don't realize that the rights we're fighting for is not just our rights, it's rights for them as well. The rights that we're fighting for includes the rights for Muslims as well.
Okay, I have a question for you. What do you think? Should this nice version of Islam, like what's more logic, that this cute version of the religion, Islam, happens or like occurs when after the fight with Islam or before?
What do you mean?
I believe there will be a big fight with Islam soon in Europe.
I mean, it's happening, right?
Yeah, and
it's happening.
It didn't happen in our countries, but it will happen in Europe, as exactly it happened with Christianity in Europe.
Like
so this is where the place. This is the geographical place where Islam religions get neutralized, declawed. So, for you, what do you think? Is it possible to declaw, to neutralize it, to make a nice version of it before the fight? Or is the fight inevitable first, and then people will come up with new scripts and nice version of Islam? What do you think?
I think they're happening in parallel. Like
Yeah, but who's
I think I think
which
it's
will
never going.
which
I think it'll be the after one. But I also feel like right now, as we're seeing with Israel Palestine, we're seeing a lot of people convert to Islam.
yeah.
Right, like when 9/11 happened, you will see a lot of people convert to Islam.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, these are European or white people converting to Islam
Yeah.
on falsehood, right? They're like, oh my God, the Quran like saved me. And
Yeah.
I was drinking so much. And I'm like, guys, you know, there are people who are atheists who also don't drink or like, you know, are healthy and make healthy choices as well.
Yeah.
But I feel like, you know, like, you know, Europe is heading towards what could possibly be quite dangerous for Muslims as well. But also, I think what is also happening is on the parallel, I think people from the Middle East and, you know, Egypt, Saudi, not the government, like the people itself, there are more
Mm-hmm.
ex-Muslims there than there are
Mm-hmm.
in like, you know,
Yeah.
with a
Yeah,
majority, like
they are
in Europe
growing in numbers.
they're growing. So I
Yeah.
feel like they're going to start leading a lot of, like in Iran, for instance, I feel like they're going to be the ones leading. And that's what I mean. Like it's happening in parallel.
Yeah.
So these people are going to start speaking out and people are going to
Mm-hmm.
start listening. Like I said, like 5 years ago, we were the only ones talking about Islam. And now
Yeah.
you'll see every
And
either
maybe
bigot or
there's
supporter
yeah.
and they will talk about it. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah, yeah.
the
And there is
reason why,
also a young generation of people talking about Islam and children like who's converting out of Islam in
yeah.
Egypt. Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
and that's like the most surprising thing that like I feel like in some ways the Arab world are like and when I say Arab world I actually do not mean the government. I feel like the ones,
the
you know,
people.
in the shadows
Yeah.
are actually growing in numbers but silently. But
Yeah.
silently, and they're growing and they will eventually start overpowering.
Yeah,
But I could
I
be
see
wrong.
it in a different way. It's about countries like, for example, Saudi Arabia is going out of Islam. Like, is the people also, not the government. Government maybe also, but I'm talking about the people. That they are now more aware. They are developing. There's an evolution happening. Like they are like going outside, but in Europe they are going into Islam, not outside Islam. So for example, now Egypt is more religious than Saudi Arabia, although it was before the opposite. The Egyptian people were the people who have like short skirts and stuff, and the abaya and blah 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 was in Saudi Arabia. Now it's the opposite. It's the other way around. So every place have Islam before or after, like in between, like during the process of moving into or out of it. So in Europe, I believe they are going into it, not out of it, like Saudi Arabia and Emirates, for example, they're going out of it. So I want to say that the nice version of Islam, in my opinion, needs the fight. It will not happen in a peaceful way. And even though many people are coming out as us, and like even if you are speaking a very long time ago and people are now new people are talking now, still they are like, for example, Egypt is 120 million, and if there's like 10,000 people speaking, still there is 119 million, and there's the family, there's people who say attack you. Like I get threatened to be killed many times. Like, we will cut your throat, we will blah 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 a lot. And sometimes when I talk about Europe and about the change happening in Europe, they tell me, we will kill the Europeans that you love, we will kill the Europeans that you want them to love you, and you are attacking our religion for their sake and stuff like that. So this conspiracy is big, is not small. And the fight is inevitable. And I believe if the only way that this fight is can be smaller in size or in time or shorter is by more freedom of expression. For instance, Sweden or Denmark or whatever, they are thinking about lowering the freedom of expression because they don't want to have the burnings of Qurans, that the Muslim people are like burning the cars and making protests and making violence or killing a policeman or whatever. So to avoid this violence from them, they ban burning the Quran, or they lower their freedom of expression. So this is like blackmailing, This is like they force you to change your law because they are using violence. They are not using negotiation or human rights or discussions or like any logic, any evidence, any sense. Like nothing makes sense. It's like if we don't do that, we will make a riot. We will burn the cars in Malmo or whatever.
You know how you were saying that people call you a traitor?
Yeah.
But I think it's the actions of Muslims that have created so many bigots. Not the law change, but like it's the actions of Muslims that have given rights to, or not rights, but like that have encouraged the far right to actually grow. It's not something that we're saying at all. Something that we're saying we're also getting attacked for by the same group as well. And as you were talking, I was like, you're right. Like, they are using violence, and what they're telling, governments who are also like, trying to protect them is like, we should be scared of you. Yeah. Not that we should be growing together. We should be scared of you.
Yeah. Yeah. And I want to tell you a story that happened in Malmo. I was in school. They invited me on Amnesty Day to talk with the students. And it was like 100 in a big class. And there was the video for the Iranian women burning their scarf and dancing because Mahsa Amini was killed. So this protest was happening and they burned and danced. I guess it's a very famous video. So before I even speak, this video was like an introduction. Before I speak, it was on the screen. And they were very offended when they saw the video. And they are like 16 years old. And whether they are born in Sweden or they came as children, they grew up here. And I didn't expect that from them because they were really fascist. Because once the video is over, and before I say my ideas, they asked me first, do you agree with that video? I said, of course. It's not like I didn't even go through my ideas. I just said, of course. And that was enough for them. They gave me another chance. These women are burning the scarf. Like, it's for them like burning Quran. And I said, it's a piece of cloth. And there was a woman killed. And these women are celebrating their freedom because they are obliged to wear hijab. And suddenly a girl from the backside said that I'm a piece of rubbish. In Arabic, she said like, I'm garbage, and you are a whore, you are a prostitute, you are a slut. And they wanted to attack me physically. I'm talking about 100 students. And they wanted, they really came to me. And the Swedish teachers make a circle around me. They called for help from outside, and they protected me from them. Like there was 70 students want to beat me up because I only said that this video is beautiful and is about freedom and about it's a very happy video. I didn't say anything. After they relaxed, after the shouting and insults were over, and they sit down again and we continued to speak, I asked a guy, he was Iranian, and I told him, how would you accept that this woman get beaten till death because she didn't cover her hair, or a piece of her hair was obvious, you can see. And he said, yes, she deserved to be killed. And I said, how? How's that? He said, because she must follow the rules. This is the rule of Iran. This is the rule of the country. He's Iranian in Sweden. And he said, this is the rule of the country and she must follow it. And she deserves to be beaten till death if she doesn't follow the rules. I said, okay, so what happens if Sweden ban hijab in schools? So what do you think? Yeah, by the way, he told me before that if she doesn't want to follow the rules of the country, she should leave the country. You
so
stay and follow
the
rules. Yeah, so she's Iranian. She is Iranian. And he is saying that she should leave the country or stay and follow the rules, or she deserves to be beaten till death, to be killed. So, okay, take it back here. And what happens if Sweden is a country, put a law against hijab in schools? He said, no, nobody should follow that rule. I said, okay, so you will leave the country? He said, no, we are not going to leave the country. So you deserve to be killed? No, we don't deserve to be killed. What? So will you please explain for me? He said, because Sweden is God's land. Iran is God's land. Norway is God's land. All the countries, all the earth, all the planet is a property of God, our God. So we own, like, Muhammad is the only prophet who had this privilege that all the land is Muslim. All the 8 billion people are Muslim by instinct. They claim that. So when we want to apply our rules in Sweden, it doesn't work like Mahsa Amini wanting to take off the hijab in Iran, because human laws are in a different level than God's law. So God's law is higher than the Swedish government, the Swedish constitution, and the land is ours, not the Swedish people land. And he was accepted from the students. Like, when I speak, they insult me, and they again wanted to beat me. Like, I want to go through that, but it's very long, but they again try to attack me again physically. This entitlement is I don't know, is, for me on a personal level, is the most disgusting part of this culture. Because when I say a characteristic about a culture or about a group, I'm not talking about individuals. I'm talking about average. And this entitlement I've witnessed all over my life in any country I traveled to. So they have this entitlement. And they also say that because this is how they were programmed, it's not their wicked choices. It's not their evil people. It's how they were raised. This is what was told for them. Yeah, and they deserve everything. They own everything. They are the right people, and everybody else is wrong, because Islam is the least, is the not like Judaism and Christianity, and the Islam is the newest one. So it's mentioned, like Christians are mentioned by name in Quran, but not the other way around. So because Quran is the newest one, supposedly. So they have that mentioned in a direct way, like the Christian people are pagans, and you should kill the pagans or take money from them. So they have this in direct orders by name. This is not any other religion to mention by name. So this entitlement was planted in their subconscious when they were babies, and they are not doing a lot of effort to reconsider it. And it's difficult, of course, to break taboos or to get rid of a dogma. And also, one last thing that they say also, and this is very frustrating for me, that when they are refugees and they take money from the country, it's God's gift for them, and the government is a tool. Like, God has his own ways to send you money. So they don't consider the government that they gave them aids, that they gave them help. They say this is God's gift for us. And then when they work, they say that this country take our taxes. Yeah, but they give you service. They give you health insurance with all its problems. But you don't have any health insurance in Egypt. You don't have any health insurance in Syria, in Iraq, in Tunisia, in Morocco, in Algeria. These countries do not really serve the citizens. Like, they just take their money and they don't give them any kind of social service, psychological help, if you want to make a surgery, if you want to, they don't help you at all. And nobody complains. But when they come here, they complain. And they say that they didn't get help. And I don't understand how on earth you want to work and you say that you have, it's a luxury thing. Like, everybody works.
It's a normal thing. It's just not it's not being lazy.
Yeah, and they say they want us, they need us, they want our money, they want our taxes. And sorry, they forget that they were drowning in the sea to come here. Until now, there's a lot of illegal immigration. And after they have their life sustained, they say that the people. How on earth is that possible? Like, this entitlement is very twisted. And it will also make me look immigrant against immigrants. It will also make me look racist. But if someone has some high IQ, they will get what I'm talking about without any hard intentions and negative judgments.
I think it's
I'm done.
so, like, I'm just thinking about that Iranian guy whose parents probably fled to give him
Yeah.
a safe life. And then with
Yeah.
that safe life, he's like, praise the Islamic regime that you ran away from. Let me just go praise them. I had a
Yeah.
very similar situation, like not somebody that intense, but it was in a different setting, who was like in Sweden, speaks Swedish, like somebody who's maybe like 27, 28. So his parents probably fled the Islamic regime. And he was like, yeah, I'm from Mashhad. Like my parents are from Mashhad. I support the Islamic regime. And I was like, hello, excuse me, are you okay? And he's like, yeah, my parents would probably agree with you. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
thinking here, and I'm like, oh my God, the entitlement that you feel, like this whole, like the privilege. You don't even recognize the privilege that millions of people would love to swap places with you and would be better contribution to the society. But here you are being in the West against the West that is actually open to feedback and trying to change to give all of us, including you and minorities, a better life.
Yeah.
But, you know, if you were in Iran and you didn't agree with like one of their law, you know what's going to happen to you?
Yeah.
You know, it's going to be like the news for you. But we're almost coming to an end, and I really, really love this chat. I have two questions for you. If you could go back to your younger self, what would you tell yourself? And your second question is, who, and it doesn't have to be a person, it can be a combination of people, it can be the actions of some people. Who has been your role model, or who do you look up to, living or dead? It doesn't have to be related to what you do, it can be a Marvel superhero.
Yeah, if I go back to myself, I would tell me, the young Yasmine, don't wait for sanity. Don't wait for justice. And although I'm always rebellious, but I would say be more rebellious and take more steps and say more no's, and don't have expectations because they have no limit. This entitlement, this injustice has no limit. They will never stop surprising you. So I wouldn't waste time giving any community that I was among, giving them the chance to show that humanity is a choice. So I would not waste time looking for goodness in people. I would not waste time looking for good side in people, because this is, and on a way it's like very rare to find, and also it's very consuming and it's very disappointing, and you lose time and we don't have anything, but we have one life. So actually I don't really have a role model, but I have people that I tend to listen to in different times of my life, whether it's musical, if it's political, if it's whatever, religious, whatever it is. But I don't have a role model that I looked up upon since I was a child or for more than 6 months, sometimes, according to where's my head. So
It's
I would say,
ADHD. It's ADHD
yeah,
as well. You know, you're bored
yeah,
after 6 months. I'm
yeah.
like, look, I like listening to you. Now I need to go somewhere else.
Yeah. I don't even have genre music that I prefer. So it depends on my mood and literally on my intellectual clarity or phase that I'm going through. But I want to mention that I don't know if you know the guy called Muhammad Saleh. If you know him, he
I
is
think so.
in he is in Göteborg in Gutenberg, and I just started to watch his videos like maybe 2 months ago. And he's an old guy, and he is
The one on TikTok.
yes, that's him. So I like his way because he is a cleric. He was a sheikh himself. So he knows every single details that even was not told to the people. Like they have their own secrets. They say that hawim. They say like the people should not know these details, but he knows everything, and he spent many like maybe 25 years reading these books and studying this Sharia law. So he's the best person to discuss that with them, and he speaks Swedish and he speaks Arabic, and he meets people from and like all over the place when he's on TikTok, and he can show the hidden side of people. Like, do you accept children marriage? they say yes, and he asked them to open the camera, because they are forced to say yes because the Prophet did so, and they cannot. And if I am like discussing that with them, they will not confess. They will like try to maneuver, say that this is not what it is. It doesn't mean like that. This is the wrong interpretation. Blah blah blah. But when they are talking with him, they already learned to follow the cleric, so they are still following the cleric and confess that this is Sharia law. And then a man would say, yes, I accept that I would choose to marry a 9-year-old. Or there was a guy like last week, he said that he considered mufakhadat radia, or like having sex with a baby, you know, like a baby, like she's still
An infant.
breastfeeding, you know, baby, like 6 months old. An old man, like a man in his 40s or his 50s, can have sex with her between her legs, and he literally said that this is moral, that this is ethical.
It's like I'm from a Shia background, so I know where that is coming from. It's coming from
Yeah.
like the Khomeini's book.
Yeah. But in 2024 on TikTok, last week, a man in his 40s said that having sex with a 6-year-old baby is ethical. So this is that, and when if you go more into discussions with them, like you find two kind of people: the people who like say you make sense, this is logic, this is not humanity, and other people who really will go like in the offensive or like this criminalistic way of speaking, like become really terrorist or bad person. And there's small people trying to maneuver in between, say that this is not so, we don't take all the book, we take a part of it. Like if you take a part of it, say that you are a part of it, like you are a part of Muslim, say that you are only Muslim. Don't say that you are Muslim, because you don't take the whole book. Otherwise, find another name for yourself. But the book is what it is. The book, like you don't take you don't delete anything. It is what it is. So if you delete a part, I would agree, like I would love to. So go ahead, delete it.
I know,
but don't consider it deleted because it's there.
Yeah, I know when you highlight the Quran verses to a lot of Muslims, they're like, "Oh, you don't know what you're talking about," and I'm like, excuse me, I didn't write the Quran. If you have a problem, you go with who wrote it. It wasn't me. I'm just telling you what it says.
Yeah.
But thank you so much. This was lovely, and I can't wait to meet you in, I think, almost a month. And yeah, we'll see you in Oslo, though.
Yeah.
But thank you so much for being here.